ready for pure flipping madness with our Flipper Frenzy. 16 flipping machines have readied themselves for the event with 4 four-way melees and some of the best flippers we have. So let's dive right into it and get the bags of popcorn on standby. Oh, I'm looking forward to this Flipper Frenzy. We are bound to have a flipping good time with 16 flipping machines taking part in 4 four-way melees. And with Anarchy Legends, Nexus taking on the 6-wheel drive machine of Jumper Cable, the CO2 Flipper of Volcano Alert, who we saw back in the last wars, sadly didn't see him this time around, and the Giant Flipper of Wheelie Big Cheese, that's in Fight 4. Fight 3 has Ultimate Show-Off Champions Chaos 2 taking on Thermidor, along with Atomic, who we last saw back in the first wars, and our now fallen All-Stars champion Siege, who haven't had a great run this series, unfortunately. Fight 2 sees 2 new machines entering the arena in the forms of Armory and Razorblade, taking on Dan Tomkia and Ironor with their Flipper and Axe, and in this fight have a lot more battle experience than everyone else in this fight. But for the first fight of this Flipper Frenzy, we have Duncel and Alexandrite, 2 new machines to the arena, taking on Bronco, who are new to the series, and former veterans TR3. This is going to be one hell of a Flipper Frenzy, and let the flipping madness begin! Duncel Flipper! A typical box design with a strong CO2 flipper that was inspired by Chaos 2. The weapon is low to the ground, as is the wedge, meaning the drive should be very strong, and if not, the weapon will change that. But there is a limited gas supply on the flipper, so they'll have to be careful with their flips. TR3 Flipper! Crashed down in the Death or Glory, which was honestly a shame, as the machine seemed like it could have done a lot better. It seemed better than its predecessor. The front is very low, so getting underneath the front will be tricky, but the rear and sides, however, are another story, and there is a limited gas supply. Bronco Flipper! A long machine with a very powerful flipper. It's actually had rather good success in Battleboard, so expect some good fights from them going forward. As I stated, the flipper is extremely powerful, meaning it'll send machines flying into the air, but there's a limited gas supply, and the exposed wheels are extremely vulnerable. Alexandrite Flipper! A very tough CO2 flipper with strong armor and a pretty good drive, while claiming to be stronger than Chaos 2. Maybe you'll get a chance to prove that someday. While the flipper is very powerful, there is a limited CO2 supply for the weapon, meaning that they'll have to be very careful with their flips.
Roboteers, stand by.
Well, how about that? 4 flippers in the arena at once, and we've got a lot of this going on in this competition. Duncel, TR3, Bronco, and Alexandrite.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Here we go, the beginning of the Flipper Frenzy mayhem, and Duncel nearly thrown into the pit, but Bronco saved them. Alexandrite, now they're driving over the pit. Bronco driving up towards TR3, who gets flipped over by Duncel, who gets flipped over by Bronco. Duncel self-rights, and Bronco flipping Duncel, who flips TR3 again. Duncel righting themselves, and Alexandrite rights himself as well, and gets himself stuck on their weapon. Duncel coming to see if they're okay, and I think I saw smoke coming from Alexandrite. Is everything okay with TR3? I'm not sure. Everyone's up and over right now. Bronco now self-rights along with TR3. Alexandrite, now they've righted themselves. Oh no! Well, TR3's into the pit along with Alexandrite, and now Bronco's. Brilliant. Duncel coming in on Alexandrite. And can they get them at the arena? Yep. That's the end of them. TR3 stuck in the pits. And there's Bronco up and over. And righting themselves onto the spike. That's not great. And flipping themselves through the air again. They've got a lot of power in that CO2 flipper. There's TR3 far in there. Flipper trying to get themselves out. I think they've got themselves stuck now. Bronco nearly separated out of the arena there. TR3 self-rights out of the pit, and they've brought themselves back into the competition. And now to come in on the attack on Bronco, and Bronco getting themselves stuck on the pit. Well, that's not good, and out goes TR3. So TR3 is now gone, and it's just between Duncel and Bronco using up a lot of CO2. And I think they've used it all up. They can't right themselves anymore, and Duncel fires the flipper, but they're throwing themselves into the pit. The one thing Bronco saved them from right at the start. And it ends up sealing their fate as they crash out after a very strong performance. They were dominating this entire fight, I think. But they crash out, and it's Bronco going through, surprisingly. How about that? Bronco goes through over Duncel. That is a shocking upset. Oh, next up, Armory, Iron Ore, Dantomkia, and Razorblade. Armory. Flipper. Fitting name, really. The armor is very strong, meaning blade attacks will mostly bounce off it for the most part, and the flipper is also quite strong. The front also has an extremely low ground clearance, making frontal assaults rather fruitless. But the rear wheels at the back are exposed, and like all flippers, there's a limited gas supply. Iron Ore Flipper Axe Bot. A two-wheel drive long machine with a CO2 flipper and a strong spiked axe to do serious damage. The flipper can also do serious damage too, as well as help them self-right and throw the opposition out of the arena. The armor, however, isn't the strongest, and there is a limited gas supply for the flipper. Dantomkia Flipper. A strong CO2 flipper with quick drive and two tips at the front which can be used as ramming spikes. A very tough armor as well, making getting through extremely tough. But the way the body is built gives a ground clearance issue, combined with the wheeling they do, and there's a limited gas supply for the weapon. Razorblade Flipper. A machine to tribute a different fighting machine called Razorblade. You couldn't have built it exactly like the original? A front flipper with a quick drive, making it very nippy. I do actually like the design and artwork of the machine, just wish the weapon had a bit more oomph to it.
Robot ears, stand by.
Here we go, with the Wedge Bot Armory, the Axe Flipper of Iron Ore, the Flipper of Dantomkia, and the flipping weapon of Razorblade.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
It'll be interesting to see how this goes in regards to the Iron Ore. We've just started with crying out loud, and Dantomkia have already skidded themselves into the pit. Well, great, you lasted what, 4 seconds? Iron Ore being flipped and flung out the arena by Armory. So Armory, right now the machine to win. Dantomkia in the pit. Iron Ore out the arena. Razorblade weapon is up, and are trying to stay away or just do that, which I don't understand how that's meant to help, because you're not being aggressive, and Armory can come in with the flipper, but they didn't. They were at the wrong angle, and they want it to be perfect. They don't want to waste their flips. They want to use their flips wisely. Sliding underneath Razorblade again, who once again goes to the center of the arena. And looking at this, Razorblade's front is so steep, Armory cannot slide underneath it. They've got to get them from the side now, flipped up and over, on the flames. And could this be the end for Razorblade? And yes it is! Out the arena they go! As Dantomkia keep trying to flip themselves out the pit. It's not gonna work, guys. You are gone, along with Razorblade and Iron Ore. Armory standing tall, victorious, as they progress through to the second round of the Flipper Frenzy. And I honestly... Oh, hello! No. Almost, guys. Almost. Sadly, almost doesn't cut it. Dan Tom Gear, you are out along with Iron Ore and Razorblade. Armor is through brilliantly as well. Next up, Chaos 2, Thermidor, Atomic, and Siege. Chaos 2. Flipper. Our ultimate show-off champions, and rightfully so after a great performance. The CO2 Flipper is one of the strongest and powerfulest the Warzone has seen, and the drive is also fairly quick too. And effective as it dumped Nexus down the pit. But there is a limited gas supply, and the armor isn't all that strong. Thermidor Flipper. We saw them in the first wars and sadly crashed out the Chief Clanny by driving themselves into the pit after knocking out Voltronic. The CO2 Flipper is still as strong as it was back then, and the drive is also quite quick too. But the claws offer a ground clearance issue, the CO2 supply is limited, and those huge wheels are extremely exposed. Atomic Flipper! Surprised to see them back again after what happened to them in Series 1. If you don't remember, Cobalt battered the armor and concussion didn't exactly help, before Hypnodisc caused them to go flying out of the arena. Still don't know how that happened. The front CO2 Flipper has some serious power behind it. Let's just hope we get to see it in action this time around. Siege Flipper. Can the machine make up for its poor performance in the main series and its battering in the All-Stars that hit the disc before getting thrown out of the arena by Sub-Zero? The Flipper is very powerful as it defeated Bigger Brother twice in the last All-Stars, as well as Chaos 2 despite the sluggish drive. But I'm wondering if the machine stands any further chance of winning a title after the performance it's been giving us recently.
Roboteers, stand by.
Battle 3 with Chaos 2, Thermidor, Siege, and Atomic. And in this, the only real fight I think anyone's really interested in seeing is the rematch between both Thermidor and Chaos 2 from Ultimate Show-Off.
2, 1, activate.
Well, let's see. Oh, and Siege has already thrown themselves up and over. And Atomic, well, no, they've flipped themselves. So there is some sort of life in Atomic. I don't think there's any much life in Siege, however. They've flipped themselves onto the backside and thrown them over. Chaos 2 still doing its own thing. Thermidor's up and over. When did that happen? I'm not even paying attention. I'm too busy focusing on either Siege or Atomic. I'm not paying attention to anything else, annoyingly. Out goes Siege! Siege is out of the arena, and Chaos 2 in trouble there. Very close to going out the arena. They can flip themselves out the arena. The Flipper is very powerful, and they could have done so. Thermidor gives them a little hand, and now Chaos 2 throws out Atomic, and now it is a fight between Chaos 2 and Thermidor. And can Thermidor get their revenge? They're righted by the spike. Chaos 2 counters them with a flip, and another flip, and sends him into the pit of oblivion and out. No! Road match victory for Thermidor. Through goes Chaos 2, and once again showing their incredible power, and now taking out 3 machines all at once. A very incredible run by Chaos 2. Out goes Atomic, out goes Siege, out goes Thermidor 2. Well done, Chaos 2. Next up, Nexus, Jumper Cable, Volcano Alert, and really big G's. Nexus Flipper. They claim to be the ultimate flipping machine in this frenzy. Well, let's see it. You have the quick drive to get out of danger easily and the low flipper to slide underneath and toss your opponents out of the arena. Question is, will you be able to before the same thing happens to you? Jumper Cable Flipper. A 6-wheel drive system, that's a rarity for Robot Wars, with a tough front and strong flipping plate. The spikes on the flipper help prevent the opposition from getting off easily, and the extra wheels add extra traction. But the wheels are exposed, and that could cost them. Volcano Alert Flipper. Great seeing them back in the Warzone. The CO2 Flipper has quite the effectiveness behind it, and the drive is also quite impressive. The rear also makes it great for ramming the opposition, and the entire front side makes getting underneath near impossible. But the CO2 supply is limited, and they have had issues with the Flipper in the past. Really big cheese Flipper. Well, it's definitely the widest flipper in the competition, but is it in fact the strongest? It definitely has some serious power and force behind it, much more than in the last wars. It also seems almost quicker, but that might just be me. But those big exposed wheels may prove to be a weak point going into this competition.
Roboteers, stand by.
Our final four-way melee between the flipper of Nexus, a six-wheel drive machine of Jumper Cable, the returning veterans Volcano Alert, shame we didn't see them in Series 3, and the big flipper of Wheelie Big Cheese.
2, 1, activate.
Well, yeah, Nexus! Jesus, you need to throw yourself down the pit there! Volcano Alert, up and over. They tend to do that, Volcano Alert. They tend to flip themselves up and over. Nexus, getting them on the spikes. Wheelie Big Cheese seems to be stuck with Jumper Cable, whose weapon seems trapped upwards. Nexus to try and flip Wheelie Big Cheese, maybe try to flip Jumper Cable, and flip they do. And Nexus up and over, rights themselves, and Jumper Cable righted and flown over, and are on their weapon. Look at this. There's the flip from Wheelie Big Cheese, and it throws Jumper Cable over, but onto their open weapon. And with that case, they cannot return. They cannot right themselves. They are fully immobilized. Is everything okay with Volcano Alert? I don't think so. They had this type of issue in the last wars! Oh no, Nexus! Well, unfortunately, their speed did do them in a bit. They spun out and down into the pit, and Wheelie Big Cheese just now joined them. Oh dear, well, that is a shame. Oh dear, they're out along with Jumper Cable and Volcano Alert. Wheelie Big Cheese, they're through to round 2. And there is the confirmation. Volcano Alert, they broke down. Jumper Cable up and over and immobilized. Nexus throwing themselves down in the pit with Wheelie Big Cheese. Then joining them, Wheelie Big Cheese takes our final spot in the Flipper Frenzy second round. And here's how that looks. Wheelie Big Cheese will be taking on Chaos 2 later on. But first up, we have the flipper of Bronco and the flipper of Armory.
Roboteers, stand by.
Bronco with their CO2-powered flipper and a very long body. And Armory, the heavily armored wedge machine with their own CO2 flipper, who also didn't really struggle in their opening four-way melee.
3, 2, 1, activate.
The low front on Armory should be enough to get underneath Bronco and able to, but they don't capitalize, interestingly, and Bronco tries to, but they mistime their flip. Armory back alley to try and come in again. Bronco again fires the flipper, again, misfires, but this time they go flying through the air, they land right side up, and again, and another flip onto Armory, this time up and over. But Armory can self-right, like the majority of CO2 flippers. Another flip from Bronco, sending Armory away. And suddenly Armory, in a bit of a pickle here, flipped again by Bronco, and again, and near the pit, and falls! Down they go! And that's a great flip from Bronco, flips them sideways, and the wheels caught the edge of the pit, they fall into it, too much weight on one side, and that's the end of Armory. A great run, they could try and get themselves out the pit, it's not gonna happen, they are gone, and it's Bronco through to the finals. And that is a shame, a bit of poor driving right at the end there by Armory as they end up down the pit. Bronco through to the finals, next up Chaos 2 and Wheelie Big Cheese.
Roboteers, stand by.
Chaos 2 with a CO2 powered flipper and our ultimate show-off champions. And can they pull off another famous victory here against Wheelie Big Cheese and their own gigantic flipper?
3, 2, 1, activate.
Well, we'll find out as they already slam against the wheel of Wheelie Big Cheese and are now underneath them and are pushing them away and flipping them away as well. But Wheelie Big Cheese does have the power to run both ways up. Wheelie Big Cheese firing the flipper for no apparent reason, and now out they go! And that's a very quick victory there! Look at this! They reverse onto the flipper of Chaos 2, and one flip, out the arena goes Wheelie Big Cheese, and another famous victory for Chaos 2. No time wasted in this attack. Out they go, and it's Chaos 2 joining Bronco in the Flipper Frenzy final. And a very quick end for Wheelie Big Cheese as well. Chaos 2 showing why they won the Ultimate Show-Off tournament last year and are on form to even win this one. This is the Flipper Frenzy Grand Final Showdown. Will the Flipper of Bronco prevail, or will the experienced champion take home the trophy? Let the final showdown commence!
Roboteers, stand by.
Our Flipper Frenzy final with Bronco and Chaos 2. Can Bronco claim a title, or will Chaos 2 add another trophy to their cabinet and get another famous victory by defeating Bronco?
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Don't forget, Bronco, lots of battle experience from BattleBots. And they are flipped. They both go up and over. Both trying to right themselves. I think Chaos 2 is the more in trouble. No. They self-right exactly at the same time. That is fantastic choreography. And now Bronco trying to retaliate and get underneath Chaos 2, but to no avail. And Chaos 2 flips Bronco up and over. And once they self-right, out they go. And that's the end of them. And Chaos 2... How did you manage that? Look at this. There's Bronco self-righting themselves out the arena, and Chaos 2 a celebratory flip, and they roll up and whoop! They balance themselves perfectly on the arena wall. That is just glorious. I don't know how you managed that. And now they finally fall out. That is the best victory I've ever seen for a new champion. One hell of a way to end the fight in absolutely fantastic fashion. Well done to Chaos 2 as they are crowned our Flipper Frenzy champions, taking home their second trophy and are so far the only undefeated machine in Robot Wars. Take care everyone, and I'll see you next time. Farewell.